Oh, hi there. It's July 6th. I'm Ezra Levant, and you're watching Battleground. Welcome back. It is great to be here. You know, I was in Israel for the past 10 days. We tried to do Battleground from over there, but it just didn't work. Either the internet connection in the hotels was too spotty and it kept buffering, or I was just, my schedule couldn't permit it, even though we're 7 hours later over there. Sometimes we were giving her till nearly midnight. Anyways, it's so good to be back. You know what the Super Chat is. It's a way for us to have a live conversation. We do it every day, every weekday for 1 hour. We're going to get back into that schedule again. And the Super Chat part of it is you can make a comment, as you can see just to the right of the screen. That's a regular chat comment, but if you make it super, it's highlighted. For example, we got a couple already highlighted just already. We got Tame Thing 1 who chipped in $2.79. Thank you very much. By the way, that dough, we get, I think, 70% of it, so it helps pay the bills. Thank you for that. Tame Thing 1 says, your take on Harper at Free Iran White House. I will give you my take on that in a moment. Luke Wardner chipped in £3.99. That's great. Thanks very much. Tony Nagy actually says, missed you, Ezra. Shalom. Well, now, people saying I missed you is an extremely rare thing for me to hear. So thank you for saying that. Danny Chen, hi Ezra. Well, hello. Seafort Everton, how do you do? There, people, it's a beautiful afternoon here in the UK. You know what? On our Israel trip, we had 6 on-air personality from The Rebel, myself, David Menzies, and Tanvir Ahmed, Katie Hopkins, Sheila Gunn Reid, Amanda Head, and myself. I think that's 6. And we had a couple cameramen and another staffer from The Rebel, and we had more than 50 guests along with us. And I was amazed how many were from the United Kingdom, Australia, South Africa. We had one fella come in from the Czech Republic, one person from Denmark, a lot of Americans and Canadians too, but it was a global thing. I would not have expected that. But that's the global reach of The Rebel. And you know what? It was fun to see the commonality we had amongst people. Tommy Robinson being one, it was very interesting to me how much people all around the Anglosphere cared about that issue. And in fact, when we were over there, we had news about Tommy. They canceled his appeal date scheduled for July 10th. I should tell you it has been rescheduled to July 24th. So a 2-week delay, which is outrageous in my mind. What, is the Crown Prosecution Service, are they going to learn something or find out something or discover the law in some way between July 10th and July 24th that they couldn't do in time for July 10th? What a bunch of baloney there, but that's the latest on Tommy's appeal. So that was one of the subjects we talked about. Obviously, we were in Israel, so we talked about Israel things. To tame things, to your question on Stephen Harper going to a Free Iran conference. I know there were other leaders from around the West there. I think Rudy Giuliani was at that same conference. A lot of people who believe in democracy. It's not even a right-wing or left-wing thing. Who amongst us could not support democracy in Iran? Who amongst us would not believe that that's superior to the theocracy that runs that place now? I mean, the only point is it's a shame that our Trudeau liberals weren't there. I don't know who was at that conference enough. I don't know. Other than Rudy Giuliani is a fairly senior Trump person. So I would say that he was there in some ways as a surrogate for Donald Trump. But where was Canada? I mean, it's great that our ex-prime minister was there, but where's the current regime in Canada? Luke Wardner, if you have a question, oh, there's your question. Justin Trudeau is the worst prime minister ever. Well, he's certainly on that top 10 list, that's for sure. I mean, it might be too early to judge. He's only 2 and a bit years into his term. But what's been blowing out, I'll have my evening show today all about Gropegate. Hansy McGroper. So just his explanations they're not internally consistent, i.e. he's lying. Tom Youngjohn says, God bless you, Ezra. Well, Tom, that's very nice of you to say. Appreciate that. All right, so I've read some of the Super Chats. It's good to be back. Let me tell you what I want to cover. I want to cover a little bit from Israel. Hannah, can you tell me what clips we have from Israel? Do we have anything on standby? I want to show you one of the things we saw right at the beginning of the trip to Israel. We were invited to a graduation ceremony for the Israel Air Force, which sounds pretty cool. And I knew they were going to have an air show there. That's pretty cool because Israel has some pretty serious hardware. Here in Canada, we make our pilots fly jets that are older than the pilots themselves. And we don't treat our pilots with respect, whereas in Israel, pilots are really at the top of the social status ladder. They're the elites of the armed forces, and everyone knows that Israel needs air superiority because without it, they'd be doomed. So I knew we were in for some great air hardware, but I was touched by what I saw. I don't remember exactly what I said at the moment because it's been over a week, but here's a little clip I did from Israel on the very subject. Take a look. We were the only tourists in the group. Everyone else was a family member or a personal friend of a pilot who had graduated from this most elite part of the Israel Defense Forces. And then it struck me how amazing it was that we were able to come to such a personal event. And yes, the demonstration of the hardware was amazing. It was sort of neat because as there was marches, they showed on the big screen, I don't know if it was from a satellite or from a drone, images from space of the same thing in real time. It was tremendous. But what struck me, besides the sheer thunder of it and the investment in it, was the moral investment that Israel makes in its armed forces. And that was a point that Netanyahu made, is that these are the absolute best people in the country, and the country proves it with their paying for the best equipment, but also giving them all the moral support. These are the people at the highest heights, the top of the social pyramid. It was pretty amazing. We were the only people there who were not in the military or family members of the pilots who were being sworn in. I have no idea how we got those tickets, but our whole team of about 60 people got in. I still don't know how we managed that. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was there, so was the president of Israel. It's a more ceremonial figure. It would be like our Governor General here or the Queen of England. The Defense Minister, Avigdor Lieberman, was there. They all gave speeches, but then they didn't skedaddle. They stayed for the entire event, and they met the families. I mean, in Canada, Trudeau would never attend such a warlike event, and if he did, he would give a banal speech and scoot. Here, all the fancy pants stuck around to the very end. I don't know if you saw that jet that was we were showing when I was talking there. Showed a number of jets, but the one in the sky, the gray one, not the big aircraft that was dropping. Yeah, there's a lot of aircraft we saw, but that one there, yeah, that one there. That's the F-35, and you can see in that flyover there, the missiles and the bomb bays of the F-35 are concealed until it's time for action, and then they open up and the missiles are shot. So it's very stealthy on, let's say, an F-15 or an F-16, which have been the backbone of the Israeli Air Force for 25 years, really, 30 years. The missiles are just out and about, and that creates a radar signature. So on the F-35, they're internal. That F-35 was awesome. They had an F-15 dogfight at this air show, but then the F-35 took the skies, and it was amazing. And I thought, you know, they're going to need it if they're fighting against Iran. Who knows, if they're fighting against Syria, they're going to need the absolute top of the line jet in the world, just like when Israel first deployed the F-15 and 16 over the Bekaa Valley in the early 80s and had a kill ratio of like 80-0 or something, taking out the MiGs. That's it again. It was quite, listen, I know you've seen the F-35 before, but let me tell you, sitting right under it as it just roared around was unbelievable. And we had just seen the F-15's dogfight. And that was mighty powerful, but then to see this F-35. All right, sorry, I'm rambling about F-35s, but I think that not only does Israel truly need it, but I think America wants Israel to have it, because this is where America's military hardware gets its real live fire training against its most likely opponent aircraft from Iran, from Syria, Russian aircraft, maybe even Chinese aircraft. And that's how the flaws or the fix points on the F-35 will be ironed out in bloody battle against Iran. It was terrifying and amazing to see at the same time. I see another super chat from Luke Wardner. Canada should keep the monarchy, not a republic. I agree with you on that. Kent Manning chipped in 279. Thank you for that. Anyway, so that's enough actually, I'll just show you one more clip. And this is from, it was a 10-day trip. It was sort of touristy. We did a couple tourist things. We went to the Dead Sea. We visited just for a few minutes, we didn't go inside, the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem, which was sort of neat. We visited it on the 4th of July, Independence Day, and there was a lot of Americans in our group, and we had a spontaneous singing of the American anthem. It was pretty fun. But we did a lot of things that no tourist would do or want to do or normally do. We went to some dangerous places, including there's a town called Sderot, about 25,000 people. It's right next to Gaza, a kilometer away. And so Gaza, the terrorists there lob rockets into Sderot all the time. On purpose, they don't shoot at the military installations because first of all, those are hardened. And second of all, the military would fire back with overwhelming firepower. So they lob rockets into the civilian town of Sderot. And here's a quick clip on that.
I'm here in Sderot in Israel, and I'm right on the border of the Gaza Strip. And this children's play centre is unique because it's actually formed of a series of bomb shelters. The children have got 15 seconds to get down from whatever piece of kit or equipment they're playing on and get themselves into a place of safety. And I wonder, what's it like to be a mum and know that you've got 15 seconds to grab everything you love the most, all your children, and make sure they're safe? What's it like to be in a car and know that you can't? And what's it like to live your life as the target of someone else's hate?
It was quite something. I mean, that playground, that indoor playground, it was ringed with bomb shelters because they have 15 seconds. They all have the app on their phone, give them an alert if a rocket is launched. They all have the sirens. I mean, 15 seconds. I mean, it takes 15 seconds for me to wake up in the morning. Imagine in the middle of the night, 15 seconds, you got to get your kids and get them in the bomb shelter. Every house is a bomb shelter. Every bus shelter doubles as a bomb shelter. There has to be a bomb shelter so close that you can get to it in 15 seconds. That is what it is like. In that children's play place, they had a rock climbing thing. They had to have the rock climbing thing not extra high, but extra wide, because if you're up too high, it takes more than 15 seconds to get down. That's how much of a living bomb shelter Sderot is because of the Hamas terrorists. So it was quite something. I was thrilled to have Katie Hopkins with us. She is quite a character, and she has a lot of fans in Israel. I was amazed. We had an event for her in Tel Aviv, and about 2 or 3 days before we advertised it, and I think we had 300 RSVPs, and it was jam-packed, and there's a lot of Rebel fans in Israel. I should have known. I mean, we saw that when we went there a year ago, but it was pretty fun, and the Proud Boys were there. I had forgotten that there was a Proud Boys chapter in Tel Aviv, but there was, and they all came with their signature shirts. It was sort of funny. It's a funny thing. Anyways, it was a great trip. I'm glad to be back, though. Ezra's first irregular says, glad you're back safe and well like the tan. Well, thank you. I have some TV makeup on, so maybe that's what you're looking at. Penny Hutchinson says, your 2 conversations with Manny were excellent and helped me understand the situation we are in with the U.S. Thank you. Keep up the good work. Well, Penny, thanks very much. Yeah, Manny's super smart, and he's got that lawyer's mind. He's just given her on this Trudeau gropes thing. We're going to have to talk to him, if not today, maybe on Monday or Tuesday about it. You're a lawyer for 30, 40 years, as Manny was, maybe 50 years, I don't know. And you just think a certain way. You parse language, you get right into the language, you get that cross-examination way of thinking. It's not a normal way of thinking, is it? And I wouldn't call it nitpicky, I would just say you're super precise, like a surgeon. That's Manny, and he applied that analysis to the trade issue with the U.S. Yeah, and those videos have had tons of views. And I'd like to talk to Manny about dissecting Justin Trudeau's excuseology on Gropegate, because Manny's good at picking out the inconsistencies. So I'm glad you're a super fan of Manny's. I am too. We'll have to get him back on. Based Amy says, Ezra, UK-based Amy here. Please, can you help me? I don't know if I can help you, Based Amy, because I don't know what help you need, and I don't know if I'm in position to help you. Most of the time I'm just a journalist. We report facts, we give our opinions, and occasionally we do some activism. I mean, we're helping out our former employee Tommy Robinson, crowdfund, so that's something we're doing for him. So I don't know if we can help you, but if you want to send me some more details, you can send it to, if it's a news tip, for example, you can send that to tips@TheRebel.media. I don't know what kind of help you're asking for. Heidi Thompson chips in £5 and says, 2 questions. Anything new on Tommy? Do you think the demo on the 14th will go ahead, considering that Trump will be in the UK? Thank you for those questions. First of all, the first piece of news, as I mentioned just a few moments ago, is Tommy's appeal has been rescheduled for July 24th. And I've got to imagine that's going to proceed. If the Crown looks for another delay, I would be shocked. And the question is, the second part of your question is, will the demonstration on July 14th go ahead, considering that Trump will be in the UK? I have been in communication with Raheem Kassam, who is a friend of Tommy's, and with the authorization of the family, he is organizing that demo on the 14th. And as recently as last night, Raheem told me it was a go. So, and I think Geert Wilders, otherwise, it reads Geert Wilders, if you know who I'm talking about, the Dutch politician. He said he's coming in for it. I'm aware of at least one U.S. congressman who is coming in. I understand there may be two. I understand someone is coming from Marine Le Pen's party, the Front National, and there may also be someone from the German party, Alternative für Deutschland, the AfD. So it sounds like it's getting going. And as of yesterday, Raheem says it's going. So, in fact, I think we're going to send an email out to our British people, our supporters. We've got 152,000 Brits on our list, encouraging them to go. Because as far as I know, it's a go. And Trump will be an interesting layer to that. But I think this event has been planned for a while, and I think it's going to proceed. So those are the two dates. July 14th, the demo in London, and July 24th, the court appeal. And I think I'm going to go to London for that. I have a law degree myself. I'm not an expert in British law, but I have been following Tommy's contempt of court issues since last year when he was arrested in Canterbury when he was working for us. So I obviously was much more closely involved back then. So I know a little bit about British contempt of court law. I've studied a little bit of it in the last month and a half since Tommy was arrested. And I feel a connection because we've been crowdfunding for the lawyers. So I want to go because if Tommy is freed, I want to be there at that exciting moment. If he is not freed, I want to understand why. And also, I got to be candid, I don't trust the mainstream media to report on that appeal hearing fairly. I just don't. I've seen so much BS, whether it's from the BBC or Channel 4 or ITV or any of the tabloids. You would think the tabloids would like Tommy because their readers are more working class. Some of them are even right-wing, but they all bash Tommy. There really is not a single mainstream media outlet in the United Kingdom that I trust to give me the news on Tommy. There are some individual journalists, James Dellingpole, Douglas Murray, but let's be honest, they're not in mainstream publications, ones with The Spectator, ones with Breitbart. Those are great publications. I read them both. I admire them both. But I'm not talking about the Times, the Telegraph, the Guardian, the BBC, ITV, Channel 4. Or the Daily Mail. You'd think the Daily Mail would be on Tommy's side. They love to kick him. I don't understand that business strategy. He is the epitome of the Daily Mail reader, in my view. I don't know why the Daily Mail is so critical of him. Let me see. Have I missed any super chats? I read Heidi Thompson's. Okay, let's just check. It's 12:18, and we go for about an hour, or exactly an hour. I've given you a little bit of an Israel update, what we were doing there. I think we're going to do that Israel trip again. It was so good. We learned so much. Katie went into the Palestinian-controlled territories. We didn't take all 50 plus of our passengers. That would just be unwieldy and probably not safe from a security point of view, but Katie went in just with a cameraman and a producer. And in her first part, she was under the guidance and watchful eye of a PLO fixer. And we'll have some very interesting videos of what she got up to in the Palestinian-controlled territories. Remember, the West Bank, there's 3 zones, and I'll just be very quick about this. There's Zone A, Zone B, and Zone C. One of the zones is Israel controls the security apparatus and the local municipal administration. And there's different zones. Some have Israelis have the military, and the PLO provides the services. And there are some places where you have Palestinian police. So it's different degrees of autonomy for the Palestinians. It's a little hair-raising if you're from the West and you're used to the rule of law, to go under jurisdictions where You really can't be helped by the Israelis if the PLO decides to kidnap you or whatever, and there was a kidnapping joke made. All right, I'll move on, but that is where I've been the last 10 days, and Katie Hopkins was there too, and you can see all the videos at RebelIsrael.com. I think we'll be back, and people had so much fun. We're thinking of having more of these. It's a combination of a journalist trip and a fact-finding trip for our viewers, and a little bit of fun. I wouldn't say it was a relaxing trip. I mean, we would get wake-up calls at 6 a.m. That's not usually a vacation thing. And like I say, on some of the days we were out there, we didn't get back till midnight. So it felt like work, it felt like hard work, but it was also fascinating too. And you can see all of our videos there. I'm going to take a few comments because I see there's some comments coming in about some of these things. And then I'm going to show you the gentle side of Muslim terrorist groups. They're really looking out for the planet. I'll mention that in a minute. But let's look through some of the comments. Deus Vault says, yes, the Ottomans just had a desert there. That is true. Then the Jews built the whole country while the Arabs were pouring in. You know, take, for example, Tel Aviv. It's actually called Tel Aviv Jaffa. The ancient city of Jaffa was really a village. Tel Aviv, this huge modern city, 500,000 Jews, that has been added in the last century. The Holy Land was really, the Jewish Holy Land, the Christian Holy Land, was really a backwater under the Ottoman Empire. The Christians had to live under a submissive state. The Pact of Omar, in Bethlehem, for example, they didn't destroy the Church of the Nativity, Manger Square. They didn't destroy it, but in return, the Christians had to be extremely submissive, pay a submissive tax, be submissive to Muslims in every way. It was extremely difficult being a Christian or a Jew in the Holy Land under the Turks for centuries. Then when the modern Zionist movement started about a century ago, the Jews started coming in and to redeem the desert, to plant trees again, to develop infrastructure. The whole concept of Palestine never really existed. That was a name the Romans gave the province there, but it was really code for the Jews. The Palestine Post was what the Jewish newspaper, now called the Jerusalem Post. The Palestine Brigade in World War II, those were Jews fighting with the Brits. It wasn't until in the last generation that Arabs co-opted the phrase Palestinian to claim that there was some distinct ethnicity. But let me just say the obvious in case you don't know it. There is no Palestinian race. There is no Palestinian language. There was never a country called Palestine. Yasser Arafat himself was born in Cairo. Palestinians are just a made-up thing. There are already dozens of Arab countries, and Palestine was meant to be another. It's not an endemic, organic ethnicity. It's just not. They're Arabs. It's just a fact. Beardy Dashcam Man chips in £5 and said, what are your thoughts on the comments made by Leveson on BBC Radio about Tommy's contempt prior to him being appointed? Is he the right judge for the job? That is an excellent question. Hannah, can you call up that audio clip? The question, for those of you, we're going back to Tommy Robinson here. As I've mentioned in previous videos, the judge for Tommy Robinson's appeal, at least on July 10th, I'm sure it'll be the same judge on July 24th, is the absolute most senior judge in the UK for criminal matters. His name is Brian Leveson. And not only is he the head of criminal law, like he's the boss, but in addition, he's somewhat famous for his inquiry into phone hacking from the tabloids. And so he's a bit political, and he knows the media, and he's a bit of a political operator himself, which makes me a little bit worried that maybe he's being brought in to finesse a political solution here, or maybe he's just the most senior guy and they think he's got enough gravitas that he can do the right thing in the face of political opinion. I don't know. But I want to play for you, Hannah. Tell me when you have the audio. Back when Tommy was originally thrown in prison on May 25th, Justice Leveson did an interview with the media about that case. And I don't like it when judges do interviews in the media, do you? I mean, look, if you want to be a pundit, be a pundit. If you want to be a politician, Be a politician. Run for office. Be accountable for your words. Be voted in or voted out. If you love the sound of your voice, and all of us in the media obviously do, but you can't have it all ways. You can't be a political pundit but immune from political accountability by being a judge with the power of a judge, but the proclivities of a politician. You just can't do that. But here is Justice Brian Leveson opining on a live case that was in the media. I mean, listen, we all have opinions on it, but the thing about a judge is you're supposed to reserve your opinions to be issued from the bench. Take a listen.
Well, members of the public ought to know that publishing comments which impact unfairly on the conduct of a criminal trial could constitute contempt of court. And there is a very good recent example of a man who videoed material which he fed into the internet, which did constitute contempt of court, as a result of which he was sentenced to a term of imprisonment.
This is Tommy Robinson.
It is indeed.
I've caused a breach of peace. I'm being arrested.
But the content of what you're
Can we just say?
streaming.
So that was a BBC interview with Brian Leveson. And my first question is, why is a judge doing punditry? Judges have power that their words become law in a way, or at least their words interpret the law, and they have enormous power. When a pundit says that ought to be the way, it's just an opinion. When a judge says that ought to be the way, it can be a court order, it could be a prison sentence, it could be a revision or a rescission of a law. I don't like it when judges are opinionators. And how can someone who has uttered his views about a case without being in the court, without hearing all the facts, without being there, how can he utter opinions on it when an appeal was still possible and the case was therefore still live? Why did he do that? And now he's appointed to oversee that appeal? It is a fact that he was convicted of contempt. That is a fact. But maybe it was an improper conviction. It is also a fact that Tommy Robinson is only appealing the sentence, not the conviction itself. But hasn't this judge displayed his predilection, his presumptions, his bias on the matter? He didn't express any palpable animus towards Tommy, but he said he was guilty. Now, it is a fact that he was found guilty, but at that point in time, the matter was still not finally determined. Tommy could have appealed the substance of the conviction too. I don't like it. That said, I think to try to change it would probably delay things further. I don't know, but I don't like the looks of it. Fair question. Let me just check to make sure there are no more super chats. I don't see any. All right, it's 12:28, and we've had a good jaw about the Israel trip, and we've had a good talk about Tommy. We seem to talk about him a lot, but he's in the news. I am going to go on July 24th. Maybe I'll see you there. You know what? I think I missed a couple of super chats. Give me 1 second. I want to read them. If you're kind enough to make a super chat, which helps us pay our bills, the least I can do is read them. Let's see. We got one here from Jonathan Bryant. Any footage of Calvary and the Garden Tomb? We have a ton of footage, and we haven't put it all up yet. There are some areas where you're not allowed to film, either for reasons of military classification or privacy, or like there's some museums that don't want you to film. I myself did not attend a couple of the church visits because I had to work during that period of time. For example, when we put out the video about Tommy's appeal being delayed, the rest of our team was in the Old City, and I think they were going to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. It's a very important Christian site. I have seen it before, and so the tour guides took our people, but I stayed back with our team to do a little video and an email on that. So I can't answer you from personal knowledge, but we have probably 15 videos still to come. Based Amy says, going to court for Have a Gay Day and stopping Muslim prayer at Speaker's Corner and streaming My surprise arrest at my home 2 days before Tommy Robinson. Ah, okay. I think I'm familiar with your case, and I think we might have played your video before. Amy, if you can send me an email to just Ezra, that's my name, E-Z-R-A, at TheRebel.media, just Ezra at TheRebel.media. Do you say Z or Z in the UK? E-Z-R-A at TheRebel.media, E-Z-R-A at TheRebel.media. And try and give me as many facts as you can. Just bullet point facts, and we'll take a look at it. I don't want to promise any help because I want to assess your situation, but I promise you I will do that. I am familiar with your case if it's the one I'm thinking of. I think we may have seen your homemade video of it, so thank you for that. Alrighty. It's 12:30. Let's switch gears. I've been critical of Hamas, which lobs terrorist rockets into Sderot. I've been critical of the Ottoman Turks. So now let's show the other side of the story. A terrorist group in Africa called Al-Shabaab. They might kill you. They might torture you. They might kidnap you. But underneath it all, they got hearts of gold. Look at this story. Al-Shabaab terror group bans single-use plastic bags. Can you scroll up? I want to see which news source this is from. This is from Sky News, which is a UK-based news organization. The Islamist group, which has long had an interest in the environment, also announced a ban of the logging of rare trees. This is not The Onion, people. This is not Clickhole. This is a real news report, and they call it the Islamist group. Now in the headline, I admit they say terrorist group, but hey guys, they've long had an interest in the environment. So no more logging of rare trees, killing of Christians and Jews. Yeah, go ahead. You're just helping reduce the carbon footprint, but no single-use plastic bags, people. And look at them there. Look at them there. Those look like environmentally sensitive bandoliers of bullets. Is that what those are called? Bandoliers, when you have like you just hundreds of bullets laced together like that. When I look at those guys, I think they love the earth. They really, really love the earth. And that's published with a straight face on Sky News. Yeah, the media party, eh? Pretty stupid. I feel dumber having read that news story. Is that fake news? Probably. But the fact that, even if it's a real story, even if Al-Shabaab is now saying no more single-use plastic bags, what do they run like the grocery stores in Africa? Even if it is a true story, which I'm skeptical of, to run it with a straight face is a form of fake news, because that's just being a dupe for a terrorist group. That is being a stenographer for a terrorist group. Let's take some more comments from that. Shabab. Yeah, Al-Shabaab is the name of a terrorist group. They are active in Africa. Tammy Putin-Zambelt says, smite their necks is acceptable. Plastic bags are evil. You are so right. V6, Al-Shabaab killing people but saving plastic bags. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Robbie Linton, plastic bags are it's so funny. J38ish, never heard of a green terror group. Well, you haven't been reading Sky News, obviously. Amy Ward, 1 bag per limb from now on. Okay, that's getting a little bit gross. All right. Speaking of environmental groups, I want to show you about Greenpeace. Let's start with a video of the bridge, the B-roll here. There's Greenpeace is trying to shut down Canada's oil and gas economy. And so this is a big bridge in British Columbia, and they rappelled down the bridge, and they've got their signs and their anti-oil and gas. And as you can see, it was a meticulously planned project. This is Greenpeace footage, obviously. Gorgeous footage, filmed by drones, filmed by professional equipment. This is not some amateur thing. This is a professional production, TV quality, branded, as you can see. I mean, we have our little word mark on it, but it's branded Greenpeace. Breaking the law, of course. Breaking the law to call for other breaking of the law. That's what Greenpeace does. They only do it in Canada and certain European countries, though. They tried it once in Russia. They approached some offshore drilling rig. They were all immediately picked up by Putin's security services and thrown in prison. And I think they were in prison for weeks. And they never protested in Russia again. Just the once. It's the only time. I've never seen Greenpeace protest in China, even though it's by far the most polluting country in the world. Of course not. You protest in China, they'll give you the Tiananmen Square treatment. They don't protest in OPEC countries. Can you name a single OPEC country where Greenpeace has protested? Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, Venezuela, Nigeria, United Arab Emirates. Of course not. Qatar. Of course not. Because you protest in those countries and it's off with your head. Al-Shabaab style, but maybe they won't use a single-use plastic bag. Why do they only target the country where ethical oil comes from? Why don't they? I mean, I'm not saying they should have protests in Saudi Arabia. I don't want these folks to be killed. But can't they at least put out a press release? Greenpeace's headquarters is in Amsterdam, in Holland. Why can't they put out a press release from their Dutch headquarters? Why? I'm not saying have a protest, but why not even a press release ever, once? I wonder if they're in league with OPEC. I wonder if they're helping to press down OPEC's competitors to allow OPEC to have more market share. I wonder if that's the case. Here's a video of one of the Greenpeace protesters. I actually know this guy. I'm from Alberta originally, and I lived for 4 years in Edmonton, and I got to meet Mike Hudima. I'm actually really surprised that he's involved. He's a high enough level organizer that he generally is the sort that lets the younger cannon fodder commit the crimes and take the punishment, while organizers like him are just masterminds and string pullers. Here, take a look at Mike Hudima.
Hi, my name is Mike Hudima, and I'm a climate campaigner with Greenpeace Canada, and I'm one of the 12 people hanging beneath a bridge as part of an aerial blockade of the Trans Mountain pipeline expansion. Trans Mountain is a pipeline that would span from Alberta, Canada to British Columbia. It would go right through the heart of a national park, cross over 1,300 streams and rivers, and bring over 400 tankers into this inlet that I'm hanging above today, and up and down the entire west coast, endangering every community, economy, job that depends on it. Those aren't risks we should ever take. Prime Minister Trudeau, it's time to reverse course on Kinder Morgan. You promised climate leadership, you promised Indigenous reconciliation, and by endorsing Trans Mountain, you violate both. It's time to get on the right side of history, Prime Minister Trudeau. It's time to reject Trans Mountain.
Very articulate, unlike most Greenpeace protesters, because he's not just some 20-year-old kid who's getting hepped up and sent out as cannon fodder. He's been a anti-industry, anti-Western extremist full-time campaigner for decades. I remember him, I think when I was in law school he was at it, so that's 20 years ago or so. So it's surprising to me that a senior hand like him would do it, but I'm actually not surprised, because they are so confident at Greenpeace that they will not be prosecuted in any serious way. I mean, they might get a little mischief ticket, they'll have to show up, but the word has come down from Ottawa through the RCMP that these guys go with the most minimal charge possible. If a member of Parliament, I mean like Elizabeth May, and there was another MP, who broke a court injunction and violated Kinder Morgan's property, get off with a $500 fine, Mike Hudima knows it's safe for him to do that, because he'll make probably $100,000 in donations out of that. But let me show you. Hannah, do you have it? Section 467.1 of the Criminal Code. And I see there's a super chat there, but I want to show this. This is the Canadian Criminal Code. And I know folks in the UK and the States are saying, why are you boring me? Well, let me just tell you, this is the Canadian version of the RICO statute. So as you can see, this is from the Canadian Justice website. It's from our Criminal Code of Canada, which is the codification of our criminal laws. It applies in every province and territory of Canada. And I'm just going to read through this, so give me a couple minutes. Don't get bored. The following definitions apply to this act. A criminal organization means a group, however organized, that is composed of 3 or more persons in or outside of Canada, okay, that's Greenpeace, and has as one of its main purposes or main activities the facilitation or commission of one or more serious offenses that, if committed, would likely result in the direct or indirect receipt of a material benefit, including a financial benefit, by the group or by any of the persons who constitute the group. It does not include a group of persons that forms randomly for the immediate commission of a single offense. I'll just read one more definition. Serious offense means an indictable offense under this or any other act or of Parliament for which the maximum punishment is imprisonment for 5 years or more, or another offense that is prescribed by regulation. There's a lot more here, but why don't we leave it at that? So does Greenpeace meet the test? Is it 3 or more people? Yeah, of course. There was 12 people involved right there. Do they commit a crime together? Yes, they brag about it. You just saw the video. Do they do it for financial benefit? Yes, that's their business model. On every single web page on the Greenpeace website, including the ones boasting about their crime, they ask for money. And they get it. That's their version of crowdfunding. I guess the only last test is, do they do things that are of a serious nature? Well, I don't know if hanging off a bridge is a grave offense that could yield an imprisonment of 5 years or more. Probably not. But Greenpeace does other things that are quite serious. And I think it would be salutary, not only for Greenpeace's conduct, but for the support of the rule of law, which has been eroding in BC. If Greenpeace were charged under Section 467.1 of the Criminal Code, our version of the RICO statute, because imagine the documents that police could get in their search warrants. Imagine all the internal financial documents about how these decisions are made, who pays for them. I'd love to know if OPEC was behind any of it. I'd love to know, because they don't protest in OPEC. I'd love to know if there was actually any Russian collusion, because again, they protested just once in Russia. They got smacked down so hard they never did it again. What do you think? I see there's a few super chats. Let me catch up on them. Ezra's First Irregulars says, don't BTFO the blimp on the 13th, legal reasons. All right, you're talking about, there's 2 dueling blimps in the UK. I don't know if we can call up images of them. One is an anti-Trump blimp, and the other is an anti-Sadiq Khan blimp. He's the mayor of London. Dueling blimps, but I don't think either of them are illegal, are they? I think they're lawful blimps. It's sort of a blimp competition. What these folks are doing in BC is illegal. Beardy Dashcam Man says, your thoughts on Sadiq Khan allowing protesters to fly a baby Trump blimp across London during his UK visit? A Khan blimp crowdfund has hit its target. You're on the same point. Can we call up the baby Trump blimp just to show people what we're talking about? I guess my first response is that in a free country, so this is a baby Trump blimp, and Sadiq Khan has given it permission to be flown in areas that he controls, obviously to embarrass Donald Trump. If that's the best you got, you don't got a lot. Is it funny? Yeah, I guess it's sort of funny. It looks sort of like a Weeble, or like those Russian dolls within dolls within dolls. Like, it's got a funny look to it. And I don't know if you can find it quickly, but Trump supporters or Sadiq Khan opponents have crowdfunded the same sort of thing for a baby Sadiq Khan in a diaper. I don't think it's very high level. Like, it's just sort of thumbing your nose at the president. It doesn't really make an argument, does it? It doesn't provide a rationale or facts. It's just a snipe, a personal insult. And that's Sadiq Khan's forte. I think he's playing to his Trump-hating, Trump derangement base, including a significant proportion of Muslims in the UK. And that's fine as a personal political indulgence, but my beef is that this is being done now in the name and with the imprimatur of the government of the mayor of London, providing his authority to use certain government-only real estate, if I understand. I haven't read it closely, but I know he gave his permission for this. And I guess what I'm saying is, yeah, that's sort of thumbing your nose at Donald Trump and, whoa, fight the power, man. But I think it demeans London, one of the greatest cities in the history of the world. I mean, London is such an amazing city. Even in its decline, it's amazing. And if this is how London wants to be known to the world and to America, that's sort of pitiful. When I think of London, in terms of icons and images, I think of Big Ben and Parliament. I think of Trafalgar Square. I think of Buckingham Palace and the beautiful statue of Queen Victoria outside. I think, and I don't really think of the modern side of things like the Shard or the Millennium Eye Ferris wheel, but that is part of London. I think of the bridges, including London Bridge. Sadiq Khan wants to replace the iconography of his city with a stupid Trump derangement blimp. Yeah, man, you showed Donald Trump. You totally showed him, man. Yeah, and you cheapened a city that for thousands of years was such a symbol to the world of greatness. Don't you think that's a little bit self-abnegating? Yeah, you're trying to bring down Trump, but you've brought down the UK to do it. I'm not against, criticism. I'm for free speech, much more than Sadiq Khan is. He's the one. Can we get the pictures of the are you beach body ready? Do you know those? If you Google Sadiq Khan beach body, Hannah, you'll see the ads that Sadiq Khan banned from the London Tube, from their subway a couple years ago. They were just ads basically telling Brits time to get fit because it's beach season. And Sadiq Khan, who has been a lawyer for Islamists in the past, he claimed he was against the objectification of women, but he basically put a burqa over all billboard ads in the London Tube. And are you beach body ready? That's a pretty hot picture. The weight loss collection. All right, so this is obviously very politically incorrect because it's a pretty girl and it's implying that being thin is better than being fat. And we're all into fat acceptance now and whatever. And you can find that distasteful, you can find that sexist, maybe it is. But for Sadiq Khan to ban that ad while Islamist dawah ads promoting Islam are, it's tough not to think, okay, he's banning uncovered women while he abides ads on subways and double-decker buses promoting the Quran. Yeah, you just might be Sharia-fying London. I'm not a fan of Sadiq Khan. I believe in freedom of speech more than he does. So although I think it's distasteful for this baby Trump blimp, I don't think it's illegal. I just think you're the mayor of one of the greatest cities in the world. I mean, New York, Paris, Tokyo, Moscow. I mean, these are the great cities of the world, Rio. And you think you want to show the world your temper tantrum personal insult. All right, man. If that's your priority, you go ahead. Let's check the time here. It is 12:48. Did I miss any super chats? I'm just going to scroll up a bit. I think I missed one. Here we go. V6, should Hansi McGroper fire himself? It's 2018. Well, that's fine. I use that phrase also, Hansi McGroper. Obviously, you're talking about Justin Trudeau, who has had three different alibis and explanations now for when he was 28 years old and was groping a female reporter in the town of Creston, British Columbia. He apologized the day after it to this reporter, and his apology was published in the local newspaper. And it basically went this way. He said, I didn't know you worked for a national newspaper. I wouldn't have been so handsy. So it wasn't even really an apology. It was, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were someone who important. I thought you were just some girl passing through my life and I was going to have my way with you. So he apologized at the time, which is important because he can't now deny it if he accepted it and apologized for it in the year 2000, can he? And there's no statute of limitations either legally for sexual assault or morally for being a creep. And I think the fact that he's lying, obfuscating, coming up with a series of internally conflicted excuses is worse than nothing. I mean, if he would have said, look, I was in my 20s, I was a little bit drunk, it was a party, I got carried away, I'm sorry. I think that would have ended it. But he's saying, oh, there were no negative interactions. I am telling you, there were no, that was his phrase, no negative interactions. That's what you got. This woman says you groped her. I do not recall it that way. There were no negative interactions. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. Yeah, that's just not working. That's not working for Mr. Male Feminist, Mr. Gender Equity Cabinet appointments. It's just not working. And I think that the shine is coming off the shiny pony, don't you? How are we doing for time? It is 12:50. BWBTC says Trudeau's been molested in Creston. You know what? That is so good. Can I borrow that? Molestin in Creston. I don't know what your real name is, BWBTC, but will you permit me to steal that phrase? Molestin in Creston. Because he did. He handled a woman. So that's not just propositioning her or hitting on her or saying, hey, baby, I don't know if I mentioned it 3 or 4 times, but Pierre Trudeau was my dad and I'm really rich. He's like a vegan. He's got to tell you within the first 30 seconds he's a vegan. Justin Trudeau, he's got to tell you within 30 seconds when he was in his 20s. He was just, yeah, did I tell you I'm Pierre Trudeau's son? I'm sort of Canadian royalty, and why don't you come back to my place and I'll tell you about the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Like, he wasn't just being an oily, gross, douchebag party bro. That's just words, right? He wasn't just propositioning. He wasn't just being lascivious. He wasn't just leering. According to the female reporter, he was handsy. That's assault, that's battery. And when you're handsy in a sexual way, that's called sexual assault, and that's just what the law says. So saying, I do not recall any negative interactions, yeah, I just don't think that's going to cut it. He was molested in Creston, that's what he was doing. It's 12:51, let's read some more comments. Hanging by his bollocks, says Paul Starmer. Mr. Q-Tip, hi Ezra, have a good Shabbos, bro. Hey, thanks, man. Dave KT versus Justine, not a vegan, he's a fruit. Well, it sounds like he was pretty hetero that day when he was molested in Creston. Patrick Max, support BDS. Well, no, I don't support BDS, or as it was in its original language in German, kauft nicht bei Juden, don't buy from Jews. I'm not into that. Carlos David, haha, Canadian royalty, he really thinks it. He absolutely does. He believes he was destined. And even if he didn't really have the motivation, those around him certainly did. They thought he was their meal ticket, and he has been. Tessa Downey, he was being that bloke at parties that everyone avoids because he's weird. Yeah, I believe he was handsy everywhere, because what are you going to do? You're going to complain about the son of a former prime minister? Back then he was rich and powerful. Now, I have no doubt why the woman who he molested does not want to be interviewed, because she'll be torn apart by his liberal allies, and by that I mean the media. They will absolutely dox her in every way. They will smoke out any ex-boyfriend she ever had, any proof that she was asking for it, that she was a woman of low morals. I have no doubt whatsoever that she is silent because of fear. And I think there's also a significant probability that she's received a Stormy Daniels type non-disclosure agreement. The difference, of course, being Stormy Daniels allegedly had a consensual affair with Donald Trump. Whether or not it happened, we don't know. He paid the money, is what we're certain of. But it was not an assault. It was a consensual act. Here we have Justin Trudeau accused of and acknowledging and apologizing for a sexual assault. That's not the same as Stormy Daniels. Stormy Daniels and Donald Trump, if it was true, was an affair. This was not an affair. This was Trudeau groping someone who said, I don't want to be groped. It's worse, in other words. I wonder if Trudeau has an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement with her. Maybe that's why she's quiet. It's 12:53. Hugh White Pride says, research Jewish power and the Zionist agenda. You're at the right place for that, buddy, because you're looking at raw Jewish power right here. Don't take me to show you my pipes. You know, sun's up, guns up. It's real, you know, you're lucky I put my shirt on because I'm like a toiger. You're looking at raw Jewish power, the Hebrew hammer right here. And what was the other thing? The Zionist agenda. We just got back from 10 days in Israel, and we were literally on Mount Zion. We were there at Mount Zion. And I tell you, the pipes were out. All right? Yeah, you watch yourself, mister. Let's take some more comments. Ezra's first irregular, so it's just keep up the good word. After chat, open all. Well, thank you. Mikey 10,000, Ezra, do you ever occasionally get stoned and meditate? I don't do drugs, and I don't do a lot of drinking, but that don't mean I don't get the sugar high from just way too much snacking. And so I'm going to give a half yes on the first part of that, and on the meditate part, that sounds very calm, and I don't do calm thinking mainly, I do agitated thinking. So I'm going to say no. Tommy needs to start his own political parties. One comment there. I don't think so. I don't think Tommy's built for politics, do you? I think he's built for activism and journalism. I don't think he's built for being part of a large political team. It's just my sense of the man. I admire him, of course. It's just not a fit for elected office or elected politics. I just don't think so. I think he'd acknowledge the same immediately to you, but who knows? Ask him. He'll be out soon, hopefully. Blackie Bori, Iron Lion of Zion. I like your rhyming. I see a limerick there. Once was an Iron Lion of Zion who took some eggs and began to fry them. I need to work on that, and I'm not going to work on that in real time. Mike Levine, the Hebrew Hammer. There was some movie character called the Hebrew Hammer. I think there might have been a movie. I didn't actually watch the whole thing. It was sort of goofy. Diablo 2 Elite PvP Guide says, Jose, you're not a Jew. Roll on the floor laughing. Okay, there's some obscure stuff here. I just don't get it. Carlos David, hold my beer, Ezra. Let me blow the Zion horn. You're talking about that ram's horn called the shofar that the Jews blow into on holidays. All right, I'm going to skip those Jewish things. Jewish comments are sort of boring. Paul Starmer, Tommy don't know how to lie. He could never become a politician. That's part of it, although I think his authenticity would be very popular. It's that Tommy is not built for committee meetings. He's not built for sitting in a caucus, haggling over nuances for hours. Unless he was the leader, I don't think he would be obedient to the party whip. And I can tell you that as his former boss. Tommy ain't built for a boss. So when I was his boss, I was his boss in name only. Have you ever seen Tommy? He ain't built for taking orders from a party leader. And he's not built for being a party leader. He's got ideas and he wants to put them into action. He's very kinetic. You know, he doesn't like sitting around. He doesn't sit in his studio. We built him a studio in Luton, and he didn't like being there. He wanted to be out on the streets, he told me. That's what makes him electric. That's also what gets him in trouble. That's a double-edged sword, isn't it? Let me see. It's 12:58. I want to make sure I've got all the super chats in there. MCA 420 says, what is your thoughts on Doug Ford and cap and trade? How far will the federal libs go to try to keep it? Well, that's what's so fun about Doug Ford. He's just doing it. He's Trumpish that way. And I know he doesn't like to be compared to Trump. So what? Trump's a man of action. So is Doug Ford. Trump despises the media and lets everyone know it. So does Doug Ford. I like the Doug Ford so far. And it's great to have an ally in the opposition to Justin Trudeau, who really had smooth sailing. I mean, for a while there was only Scott Moe, Brad Wall and Scott Moe of Saskatchewan. Jason Kenney will probably be elected premier next year. Doug Ford, you're getting some real opposition coming together. Last comment here, I see Forte3645 says, let's counter with a bloodthirsty knife yielding Muslim terrorist blimp. Okay, it took me a while to understand what you're saying. You're saying to put up a blimp in reaction to that Trump baby blimp with one of a Muslim terrorist. That is a provocative idea. that if Sadiq Khan truly believed in freedom of speech, he would abide. But Sadiq Khan does not truly believe in free speech, as I showed you with that Beachbody ad. Sadiq Khan has represented Islamists, including the family members of terrorists. He would certainly not accept that, and he would call it a hate crime. So not only would he censor it on some municipal bylaw grounds, but he would take it on in terms of some sort of a hate crime law. Absolutely sure of it. Well, folks, it's good to be back in the seat here on Battleground. Our hour is up. I'm glad to be back because I tried to do these from overseas, but it just didn't work from scheduling and an internet point of view, so I'm glad that it worked. Thank you, everyone, for chipping in with your super chats. Of course, that helps us pay the bills here at The Rebel, so I appreciate it. We'll be back on Monday, and we'll have so much more to say. As I said, I am going to go to the UK for the 24th. That's still a few weeks away. I'm not sure if I'll do a Battleground that day, but I will certainly report to you from the courthouse that day. I'm actually looking forward to it. I've had some interactions with Tommy's lawyers. I'm very encouraged. I think that there's a respectable chance that Tommy will be granted bail right there then. That'll be amazing if that happens, and I want to catch Tommy fresh out of prison to talk to him. Won't that be amazing? And most importantly, I want to be there to counter the MSM, mainstream media lies that will be told, because the entire UK media establishment is against Tommy, with those handful of exceptions that I mentioned earlier. So I think I'm going to go and cover it. What do you think? If you have any views on other things I should do while I'm in London, let me know, but I'll probably come and go the same day. Folks, that's been Battleground. If you can, tune in tonight at 8 p.m. where I do my whole show, not my whole show, but my monologue, about Handsy McGroper, Justin Trudeau. And we'll have a conversation about it. We'll show you some video and we'll get into the details. So that's at 8 p.m. Eastern. Until then, on behalf of all of us here at Rebel World Headquarters, goodbye and keep fighting for freedom.